Sonny Dykes had some comments about Josh Hoover earlier in the week about what actually it was about last week's time about his turnovers and stuff like that. And Kirk Cignetti taking a little bit of exception to that, and he's responded today. Before we do that, or he responded on Thursday. Before we do that, let's take a look at what Sonny Dykes said just to kind of refresh us a little bit. Now, Dykes went public on Hoover. Hoover, by the way, tied for fourth in FanDuel odds to win the Heisman Trophy right now at plus 1,200. That is tied with Julian Sayin, who was a Heisman finalist last season. So, he can try to tear down Josh Hoover all he wants, but all I'm saying is he's fourth in the Heisman odds, tied for fourth in the Heisman odds right now. Don't think TCU's next starting quarterback is there now. Heisman odds are not everything, but look, Fernando Mendoza just won it. Kirk Cignetti has always had extremely good QBs. So it's a safe bet to think, yeah, he might be somebody you need to have up there in the Heisman odds, especially with the eye for talent that Cignetti has. Now, here's what Sonny Dykes said. I'm not going to read the entire thing, but basically, Sonny Dykes said, we turned the ball over 40, and then he stops, and then he says, he turned the ball over 42 times in those 31 starts, obviously talking about Josh Hoover and not being satisfied with Hoover and some of his turnovers. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Jeez, I just muted myself for the other one, but I couldn't mute myself for that one. Anyway, Dykes, was commenting on the 42 turnovers across 31 starts that he had at TCU, painting the QB with kind of a gunslinger mentality and one of the roots of Josh Hoover's issues, and not just why he was failing, but why the team was failing at TCU. You go read the whole quote, which I have there next to me. You can see it's sour grapes from Sonny Dykes here. He's not happy about the situation. He's not happy about Josh Hoover leaving. And now he has decided to come to, I guess, his team's defense or just outright going against Josh Hoover and try to speak, in such a way that things were Josh Hoover's fault. Well, Cignetti had the perfect response, as Curt Cignetti always does. I think Curt Cignetti just kind of like sits in his office sometimes and thinks through, like, what am I going to say when they ask me about this? I'm sure he doesn't actually have time for that, but in my mind, that's what he's doing, because I don't know how a guy can come up with this kind of stuff off the top of my head. But he had a mic drop quote that Indiana fans, honestly, like, get this tattooed on your body or something right now. Not actually. I don't want to, I guess it could be like a nice back piece or something, but don't get Kirk Cignetti tattooed on your back. Max, if I see you with Kirk Cignetti, with a Kirk Cignetti tattoo, I'll know where you got the idea at. But let me know in the comments. Would you, yes or no, would you ever get a Kirk Cignetti tattoo? I'm going to anticipate there's quite a few no's there, but I don't know. I live in Indiana, and some of you Indiana fans are pretty wild, which I love. And so maybe you would. But anyway, when asked, Jared Kelly here on Twitter, he put this video and the quote up, and we'll just go ahead and read it because, again, I play video, I get in trouble, copyright, yada, yada, yada. It is what it is. He said, Indiana QB Josh Hoover caught some flack from TCU coach Sonny Dykes for his turnovers. Kirk Cignetti had Hoover's back this afternoon in the press conference. He said, quote, when Josh got here, he met his two best friends, great defense and a really good run game. And he was never the same after that. Now, is this a direct, kind of back hit at Sonny Dykes and stuff like that? I mean, kind of. It's not like he ended it with and he's never actually had that before or anything like that. And it was a really good quip, a really good quote to have back at him, and something fun for Indiana fans. But not everybody is taking it in such a fun way. John Collins here, Conlin, sorry. Here, he is a TCU reporter, and he decided to clap back a little bit at Kirk Cignetti, and I'm sure the TCU fans enjoy this, but it's a bad clapback, and we're gonna go through why that is. So John Conlin says Josh Hoover had 6 touchdowns and 11 interceptions in 5 games against the top half of the Big 12. He had 0 big wins in his 3 years as a starter at TCU. This ain't some gotcha moment. TCU's defense didn't make him throw those picks. Interesting response here from John. nobody's saying that the defense made him throw picks, but if you know anything about football, which, you're not really helping the whole reporter, doesn't know ball here or anything like that here, John. But if you know anything about football, the defense absolutely can impact the pace, the pressure, and things like that the offense and the quarterback has to deal with, especially in situations where your defense or your run game does not back you up. And for Josh Hoover, that's exactly what happened in the 5 games here that John Conlon is referencing. So let's go ahead. Let's just go through them. Okay, let's go through them. We're not going to do like a deep dive with them or anything like that, but let's just go through them because BYU, I have the game log here next to me. BYU beat TCU at BYU, by the way. 4 of these 5 games that he's talking about were on the road. We don't think that matters, I guess. I mean, if you want to say Big 12 doesn't have good environments, okay, sure. But still, 4 of these 5 games on the road, I think that impacts things a good amount. Fernando Mendoza threw picks on the road last season, but you know what he had? Best friends, really good defense, really good run game. So anyway, this BYU game, BYU wins 44-13. The defense in this game hemorrhaged points in the first 7 drives. 5 of those first 7 drives were touchdowns. 2 of them were field goals. In the first 7 drives, BYU scored every single time. Special teams and turnovers turned a potential dogfight into a routing. Hoover was just one piece of the collapse. Sure, he had a couple interceptions in that game, but I would think, when the other team scores 44 points, I'm looking at the defense a whole lot more than anything else, especially when that defense let BYU pounce on you by scoring in the first 7 drives. 5 touchdowns in the first 7 drives. All right, well, let's go to a game that was closer. Iowa State, 20-17. Iowa State wins this one. Okay, all right. Well, maybe it was all Josh Hoover's fault at the end. Nope. Late clock killing drive by the defense handed them the game. Special teams gift wrapped the lead change. A running back fumble helped sealed it for Iowa State. And this one, just a terrible situation in this one for Josh Hoover, for him to have to try and work through, for him to have to try and get through. I mean, it was just a terrible situation overall for him. You look at that game, the defense permitted, they gave up a long clock killing drive late in that one that made it very, very difficult for Iowa or for TCU against Iowa State. The special teams gave up the lead, and the the run back fumbling was obviously not helpful. Here we go. I found my exact stats. I apologize. I was trying to delay there for a while I found my exact stats. Here they are. The defense literally let Iowa State go on a 10-play, nearly 5-minute drive to nearly end the game after the special teams gave up the lead-taking touchdowns, and a running back fumbled on a drive late in that game. So, sure, the defense didn't make Josh Hoover turn the ball over, but they did make him lose the game, and they did put him in pressure situations. And Hoover, on that drive where the running back fumbled, he had 2 plays for 25 yards. He was moving the team down the field, but of course the running back fumbles. Would have been nice to have a best friend in that situation who could, hold on to the ball for you. Anyway, all right, so that's 2 that is just completely, terrible analysis by John Conlon. Let's go to the third one here, the Houston matchup, which they actually won. All right, credit to Josh Hoover. They got the win here. Hoover gave them the lead at the start of the game, and the defense almost gave it up because at the end of the game, Houston had 2 chances to tie the game. 2 chances to tie the game in this one, and Houston missed both field goals in the final 2 drives after Sonny Dykes called a run play on 4th and 1, which you might be saying, well, JR, what's wrong with the run play? Called it out of the shotgun on Houston's 6-yard line in the red zone. Sonny Dykes decides on 4th and 1 to call run play out of the shotgun. Maybe it wasn't just the run game. Maybe it was, somebody calling the run game as well in that situation. Granted, they still win the game, but not without Houston, making the mistakes here, because obviously TCU made a bunch of mistakes, letting Houston drive the ball down the field and work through some stuff like that. All right, 2 more left here. The Kansas State matchup, which Kansas State won 41-28. Again, I'm not going to put a whole lot on Josh Hoover when the other team scores 41 points. Now, maybe if all of those interceptions were pick sixes, but Josh Hoover also threw 3 touchdowns in that game. Literally, it was a fumble by the running back to give K-State their first touchdown. And the defense this wasn't a situation where they had like 3 pick sixes or anything like that. The defense let Avery Johnson have the best game of the season. I think best game of his career, possibly. Avery Johnson has not been fantastic in his career, and the TCU defense let him have the best game of his career. 200 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, a good amount of rushing in that game as well. I know how you can look at that game and say that's all on Josh Hoover. Is it some on Josh Hoover? Of course, it always is a little bit, but he doesn't have a run game, doesn't have a defense. Those are all impactful things as well. Last one here, and then we'll finish it up. I apologize. I still got my cough. Arizona State. Hoover was sacked 6 times in this game, and he still had the lead. He still had the lead after being sacked 5 times. He got sacked 6 times overall. He taking a touchdown run as well to give them the lead in this one. But of course, some bad O-line play gave Arizona State the ball by giving another sack and fumble, and the TCU defense let up an 11-play, 70-plus yard drive in less than 4 minutes to give Arizona State the opportunity to tie the game. They tied it. They hit a field goal later on after Josh Hoover had to endure some more issues there with the offensive line. Point is, this was not like all these games were Josh Hoover's fault. Point is John Conlon here, this feels like Sonny Dykes, where he does not appreciate Josh Hoover and the things that he brought, and there's some sour grapes here. So TCU is officially SGU, Sour Grapes University, at this point because they are not a fan of Josh Hoover. Guess what? It's adapt or die. Like Ryan Day said, it's the dinosaurs, adapt or die. And right now, Sonny Dykes looks a whole lot more like a dinosaur who's going to die in this situation. Not actually literally, you understand what I'm saying, than he will adapt. Guys like Kirk Cignetti, guys like Ryan Day, guys like the Big Ten, where it is the best college football conference out there, are adapting instead of dying. And a coach like Sonny Dykes should never be in the Big Ten. And honestly, players should think twice before they go play for a guy like that, and before they go to a program that would turn their back on you and scold you and try to disparage you in front of the media and everybody else just because you tried to go make a decision where you got paid more money and you got to a better situation. Apparently, nobody should ever leave their job for a better job that's more prestigious and pays you more money. Apparently that's the worst thing in the world, but that's the type of stipulations we're putting on college, athletes and people like that right now. It's pretty ridiculous. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the Kirk Cignetti, jab back at Sonny Dykes. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section. You agree with me? It wasn't all on Josh Hoover. What are your thoughts? Would love to hear them.